Hi friends, Right Careers welcomes you to another brand new video. This is Yes Sudarshan, your career coach. Before we get on to this week's topic, the customary thing, in case you have subscribed to my YouTube channel, thank you so much. And in case you haven't, do click on the subscription button and also the bell button for instant notifications of career and parenting related videos on a regular basis. Now, we all understand that this Right Career is all more or less a career related channel, but we also do some parenting kind of videos on a regular basis. Now, many parents ask me this question as to how to raise their child. Now, I am not a parenting expert, but then after discussing with quite a lot of experts whom I come across with on a regular basis, I thought I'll do a video on how do we better ourselves in terms of parenting. Now, I myself a parent of two children, and therefore it's important for me also to learn from this video. Now, we all know that the raising of children at this era, particularly at this point in time, is not that easy. Especially when the screen time of your phone, of the children's phone or your phone, is increasing day by day. When you actually pull out the phone from your child, you see the children often turn violent also. There are different technological advancement that has happened when I was a child or you were a child as a parent and now. And therefore parenting has to evolve, has to change. It has actually evolved and it has to change slightly differently. Now, parenting has never been an easy task cut across this generation or the earlier generation. Any generation, it has never been an easy task. It has been a demanding job. Now, being an effective parent requires lot of skills, and that is what we are going to see. Now, before we see, we also need to understand parenting is definitely not academics. It's not a course of study that is taught somewhere, like this. It's not taught elsewhere. It is not a skill-based program or something like that. It is neither science nor art, as people call. It is not a business. So, what is parenting? The layman language, it is very simple. It is a natural love between you and your children, as simple as that. So let us not complicate parenting. It is definitely the mutual love that you and your children share. Now, the landscape of parenting has also, family has also changed over the past few years, I would say. Good old days, there used to be a very, very famous saying, it takes a village to raise a son or a daughter. A village used to raise the children. Therefore, it wasn't the case of a sole responsibility of two people or one individual to raise a child good old days. Now, some years ago, family was meant to have grandparents at their house, extended families together. I mean, it was a joint family system, right? Uncle, aunts, grandparents, siblings, so on and so forth. Now, gradually, that concept, became nuclear for various reasons that we call practical. Yes, I understand in India there are still some families that are still joint in nature, but then more or less it has become neutral in nature. Now this means a typical household is no longer joint family in nature and it's completely nuclear, and therefore it has now become a responsibility of one individual or two at the max to raise their children, and that's why it is even more kind of complicating, I would say, or rather demanding, I would say. Now, this video we will see five tips, or it's not a trick, five tips as to how do we effectively parent the children of 21st century. So that's the topic for this week. The first tip or first suggestion that comes to my mind is the most important, I would say, is start understanding your child. Now, we all expect the children to understand us, which is totally wrong. It should be the other way. It should be we should start understanding the child, then the children starts understanding us. So the moment we start understanding, we as in the parents start understanding the child, life becomes, or parenting becomes much easier. I'll tell you a weird example that I often come across when I talk to parents. Every parent that I come across, I mean every parent, they want the famous dialogue that they say is, I want to give the best to my child. I mean, as if no other parent want to give best to their child. But trust me, every parent want to give the best to their child in terms of everything. That parent could be super rich or it could be super poor. Every parent want their best to be, best to be given to their child, right? So, therefore, keeping that in context, only when you understand your children, you can give the best. For example, you might want your son or daughter to become a doctor, or you might want your son or daughter to become an engineer or an IAS. But then your son or daughter might not even be interested in all these things. They might be interested in sports, or they might be interested in music, right? If that is the case, what you have to tell is, I mean, quite often I see parents telling, if you don't do a doctor, India will miss a doctor, very good doctor. If you don't do a IAS, if you don't become a collector or IAS, India will miss out on a collector. Now all these things are fine, but then you can always say India will miss out on, say, A.R. Rahman. India would miss out on a Sachin Tendulkar. So if you start encouraging what they like practically, the relationship between a son or a daughter and a parent will be very, very good. So that's the first tip. The second tip that I can think of is definitely never ever compare your children with anyone. I mean, it is a very wrong, I mean, it's totally wrong on parenting or parents to compare their children with others. Now, not two fingers are the same, right? The size is different. Even the twins who are born identical, they aren't the same. The tastes differ, the preference differ, the attitude differ, the behavior differ. So it differs with people to people, and therefore comparing of two children, even among twins, is not the right attitude. So what you got to do is, you got to instead identify your child's interest, your child's taste, your child's behavior, and devise a career path for them, so that it becomes very, very easy. So that's the second tip. The third important tip that I thought was, as parent of 21st century, you got to be ahead of them, and you got to be transparent. The 21st century children are quite inquisitive by nature. They keep on asking questions. They'll ask a lot of questions. It doesn't mean the earlier generation never asked. It asked, but the reply wasn't there. But today, children expect logical reply. It's very important that you have logical reply to the questions they ask. Now, never ever suppress them when they ask questions. You got to answer their questions, or else they have Google, right? That's different. But then you got to have a logical reasoning, which means you got to be ahead of them. Not only logical, it has to be quite reasonable also in terms of the answers that you have. And more importantly, you got to be very, very transparent with your child. And that's very important. If you are hiding something, if the child comes to know that the parents are hiding something from them, then the relationship becomes sore. And therefore, the third tip is, you got to be ahead of them and quite transparent with them. The fourth important tip that I thought was, you got to gift them. Yes, parents should gift children, but what? Gift them with character, gift them with better personality or best personality, rather than materialistic things. I understand as parents, you want to gift them with houses or money or whatever it is, property, whatever it is, which is fine. But trust me, as parents, that's not the best gift. The best gift that you can give to your children are the character, right? Character, or every child is very good in born, right? Now that got to be cultivated. So that character is something which you will give, and you will give a personality that will be lifelong, a value based life that will be lifelong, that will be with them forever. So that's the fourth tip. The fifth tip, again an important one: celebrate their success. Even small success you got to celebrate. To be an effective parent, an efficient parent, you got to cultivate this habit of celebrating. Now this goes a very, very long way. When they recall these moments when they become parents, and then take the cue out of you. For example, when they win something very small in the class, also gift them. Don't pamper them, but then gift them. Take them for dinner, even for a local show, a local drama that's happening in your city, a local fest that happens in your city. You can take them. Just be with them. I mean, rather than that, you spend more time with them on celebrating their success. This is an excellent way of showcasing your love to your child, especially in this 21st century, right? As Khalil Gibran says, your child are not your children. Yes, as your child are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life by itself. That's what Khalil Gibran says. They come through you, but I mean, it's not from you. They come through you. And therefore, parenting is one of the most important, if not one of the, it's perhaps the most important role that you would play as a human being in your entire life. Now, effective parenting for this century, for 21st century, requires a lot of patience, requires knowledge. You got to be firm. It requires firmness. It requires information. It requires exemplary life, and much, much, much more. Right. So in case you find some more tips on this, you're free to ping me, on the all the credentials are mentioned beneath this video. And that's all I have for this week, and hope you enjoyed watching this parenting video. And until next week with altogether different video, see you all. Have a safe week. Thank you and happy parenting.